In order to make this card, I would recommend that you start with the stamping first. So I'm going to use my Pretty Peacock ink, and I have this stamp from the Forever Fern stamp set that says, "To a friend that makes me smile." And I'm going to stamp that in the center of the smaller Whisper White layer. Then I'm going to take one of the flower images or fern images from the Forever Fern set. I'm going to ink it up, also using Pretty Peacock, and I'm going to stamp it 3 times onto this layer, like so. And then I'm going to bring in my die cutting machine, and we're going to do some die cutting. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to have to do this 3 times, from the matching die pack, which is the Forever Flourishing dies, and that coordinates with the Forever Fern stamp set. I'm going to die cut this fern 3 times, and then I'm going to take one of the stitched nested labels dies, and I'm going to die cut the phrase like so. So I'll go ahead and die cut these, and then I'll be back and I'll show you the next steps. I've got these pieces all ready for the front of my card. The next thing I want to do is bring in my vellum, and I have another one of the Forever Flourishing dies. It's this die right here, and what I want to do is I want to die cut 2 of these ferns from the vellum. So let's quickly do that, and then we'll be ready to assemble the card. There are my 2 vellum ferns, and there is one final step. I have my Dainty Diamonds embossing folder. I'm going to put my Whisper White layer inside the folder, and then I'm going to run that through my die cutting and embossing machine, and that will create a really pretty layer for the front of my card. Now these are like outies, and these are like innies. I think I want more of a subtle look for the innies. So now I have all the elements ready for the front of my card, and it's time to assemble. The first thing I'm going to do is run some of my Stamp and Seal across my Whisper White layer and attach that to the Pretty Peacock card base. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of eyeball, I guess, or figure out where I want my vellum pieces to be and where I want my stamped ferns to be. So I do know that I want my vellum pieces sticking a little bit out from the phrase, like so. So what I'm going to use to attach my vellum is the liquid glue, and what I'm going to do is add just a touch of the liquid glue to the back of, there we go, to the back of the vellum, just a little bit of, just a light touch. And it's fine with me if some of the vellum pokes up a little bit, so I will put that piece there, and then I've got the second vellum piece. So I just want enough glue on it so it holds it down in place. I did not intend to drop it. There, like so. Okay, and then I am going to use some of my mini Stampin' Dimensionals and add these to these pretty peacock ferns. And I'll add one there. And I'm going to add a second one on top of the other vellum fern. Okay, you can see how I'm building this. And then the third one, I'm going to add towards the bottom of my phrase. And this one, I'm going to tuck under like so. And then to add my phrase, again, I'm going to use some mini Stampin' Dimensionals, like so. And then I'm going to put it right on top of my layers, just like so. Now I want to add one final touch to my card, and that is to add some of the snowflake sequins. I really like these sequins. Some of them are snowflake shapes, but there's circular ones, and I think the circular ones would be really pretty on this card, or maybe the snowflake ones. So I will decide what I'm going to use. I'll adhere them down, and then I'll come back and I'll show you a final picture of what the card is going to look like when it's all done. And there we go. I've added 3 of the little snowflake sequins. I decided to use the circular ones. The snowflake ones were a little bit too yellow for my liking, but these have just a touch of glimmer to them, and I think it adds a nice, elegant touch to this card. So this is number 1 way to use our cardstock vellum, and that is to create an element on your card, one that adds an elegant but subtle touch. So now it's time to go on to video number 2, where I'll show you a different way to use vellum on your cards.